everyone.
I'm Susie.
And I'm Rachel.
And you're listening to the Gilmore Gab.
Gilmore Gab.
Gilmore Gab.
Episode
Here we are.
12.
What?
Yep.
Double digits.
We were double digits last time.
I know. But we
and the time before that.
We recorded those together.
Yeah, and it's been months.
No, it hasn't. It's been 2 weeks, Rachel.
Anyway, but on that note, I do have to say, we are actually recording this on New Year's Eve.
It's
2025.
True. Yes, we are.
But it will be February by the time they hear this, or March.
Yeah.
But if there's explosions, it is fireworks.
Yes.
So that's
because we felt that what better way to ring in a new year than to record a podcast for you.
Okay, so episode 12. Yep, we're going to talk about Lane.
Yes, we are.
Lane Kim.
We have finally gotten out of the boys and the relationships.
Well, for the main girls.
For the main girls. But like this is like the first episode that's focused on not any of the main girls or their guys.
To a point, I have a lot to say about Rory in relation to Lane.
Yeah, but this is a Lane episode.
This is a Lane episode.
This is not a Rory adjacent, well, it is a Rory adjacent episode. This isn't a Rory episode adjacent with Lane. This is Lane.
And Rory is just part of it because,
yes.
Let's be honest, the Gilmores were in everybody's life.
Well, and Lane wouldn't have been in this story if Rory hadn't been there.
Which brings a very interesting point.
Yes.
So I was having these thoughts as I was editing the podcast over the last week. And we talk about in one of the episodes, why we never got a Luke and Lorelai wedding.
Uh-huh.
And I had this thought of it's because the entire story, as evidenced by Year in the Life, when Rory writes the book, the whole series is Rory's perspective.
Truth.
Even when we have just the Lorelai scenes, it is from my perspective, it's Rory retelling after Lorelai told her about it.
Yeah.
Which is why certain things are skewed or left out. And so I think that everything being from Rory's perspective is very relevant here in regards to Lane and their friend.
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
I do too, but I'm going to let you go first because I think after editing the podcast, I talk too much and you don't talk enough. And I know one day somebody's going to be like, gosh, Rachel, stop talking. Let Susie talk. So, Susie, talk.
I just want to know why Rory did Lane so dirty.
In what way?
In her whole life. She could have told this story and given Lane a better outcome than Lane got.
Well,
I mean, obviously, these characters are supposed to be real characters, right? And these are supposed to be I'm air quoting all of this, real people. So obviously she would tell the story as it happened, but
right.
No one got a more raw deal at the end of this series than Lane.
Personally, I think throughout the whole.
Yeah.
Because Rory's a terrible friend.
She is a terrible friend.
But, unpopular opinion, so is Lane.
Go on.
Okay, so here's the thing. Obviously, the understanding is they were in kindergarten and they connected over Rory being kind of the shy, awkward girl and Lane having the gross Korean lunch.
Yeah.
And then that made them be friends. They were the weird girls and that's how they bonded according to the story. But what we end up seeing is that friendship never developed beyond that.
Yeah.
Them being the weird girls. And it was a friendship of convenience and using each other.
Yeah.
That's my thought process. Because if you think about it, when Rory goes to Chilton, Lane makes no friends. Lane became a cheerleader. Lane was able to pick up a guy at a Chilton party just fine on her own.
True.
But the way the story plays out, it's Lane couldn't function without Rory, but Lane was also capable of starting a band. And that's why I think a lot of the story is Rory's perspective, because either Rory didn't think Lane could make friends without her, or Rory just didn't care enough. I just see either Rory didn't care about what Lane did when she wasn't around, and narcissistic personality of oh, she needs me. She can't function without me. But are we really going to believe that Lane couldn't? Lane became a cheerleader, but was too scared to tell Rory.
It's true.
Lane went to
she was a cheerleader.
Chilton party.
Yeah.
And met a boy.
That's true. Henry.
Without Rory's help.
No, that's not Henry. Wait, that is Henry.
That's Henry. I think so.
It is Henry because their whole relationship goes through Rory.
Yes. Which, again, Rory centered.
Which is funny because Lane even knows that Henry is perfect and her mom would like him.
And apparently that's a problem.
Well, when you're living in floorboards, yes, it is.
But and then Lane even had the ability to, one, go into the new music shop and asked someone to let her play the drums, and she put up flyers and started a band.
I mean, she
Lane-
joined a band,
joined,
but she still put forth the effort.
Like, she is a very capable young lady who could have absolutely lived her life outside of Rory.
Mm-hmm.
So either they just trauma bonded over being awkward, or they got too comfortable using each other.
Yeah.
Because Rory didn't seem to ever want to branch out. We see this when she goes to Chilton, that she doesn't really make friends. Like, her and Paris aren't friends.
No, they're
You're lying if you think they are. And she just kind of gets pulled into these different groups of people. And it's not even until Yale that she starts to make friends.
Yeah.
But then it's Marty, and we've already talked about that.
Yes. Well, and I think even like the friends that she makes at Yale, like those still are superficial friendships.
Exactly. Like, Lane is and her mother. Lane and her mother are the only like true quote friendships she has.
Yeah.
And then Jess later on, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that too.
But like, she just didn't care. Lane was all she needed. Her mom was all she needed, or it just like was too hard. I don't know. So she was using Lane as a friendship to not feel like she sucked at life because she couldn't make friends. But then Lane was using Rory for everything else. Get me my contraband, my CDs, my makeup, my dye my hair. Like, Lane didn't care. I mean, Lane did get upset when Rory started dating Dean and was at school all the time, and like she never saw her.
Yeah.
But Lane had the capacity to go make friends and didn't. True. And I don't know if that's because she was afraid of losing her contraband source, or if something happens behind the scenes that we don't see in this fictional story that we're making way too real for this podcast. But it was almost like Lane felt obligated to be Rory's friend, and they were terrible friends to each other, because I don't feel like anything they ever did was friendship, because Lane doesn't even tell Rory when Dean and Lindsay start dating, because she didn't want Rory to be mad.
Oh, that's true, because she did know. She even tells Rory that she knew.
And here I am talking too much.
Because Lane's like, hey, I don't know, Rory's like, hey, how long's that been going on? And Lane's like, oh, a while, a few weeks or whatever it was. I don't remember. Yeah, I mean.
And did Rory ever stand up to Mrs. Kim for Lane? No, Lorelai did.
Yeah. Well, and Lorelai even, because, like, for example, when Lane runs away to Yale because she calls her mom after the whole band fiasco, and she doesn't have the guts to face her mom because she didn't tell her mom she was leaving. She just left, and it's like in the middle of the night. And Rory calls her mom to let her mom know that Lane is there. And then Lorelai's like, I have to call her mom. And Lane's like, or Rory, oh my gosh. They're interchangeable in my head, apparently. Rory was like she didn't call her mom. And Lorelai's like, yeah, so I have to because, you know, mom code type thing. And like, that was one moment where I was really appreciative of Lorelai, that like she put Mrs. Kim ahead of the girls, you know, like, because she's like, if I was that mom, if the roles were reversed, I would want to know, and I would want her to call me. And like, she calls Mrs. Kim, obviously, and lets Mrs. Kim know, and Mrs. Kim's like, oh, you know, thank you. And then that whole Mrs. Kim and Lane rift happens. But
which also is never painted nearly as significant as the Lorelai Rory rift, which I personally feel like the Lane and Mrs. Kim rift was bigger.
Yes.
And a bigger deal, and deserved more airtime and a better resolution.
That's true. That's true. Especially because like the resolution is Mrs. Kim just like completely caving on everything that like there was the conflict between them. And like, having grown up in a religious house, like I know that if I had like come home completely like going the opposite direction of the faith that we held in our house, I mean, I don't think my parents would have kicked me out, but like there would have been a lot of discussion about it. And Mrs. Kim, like it's like and it was supposed to be this way, like Mrs. Kim goes from like, you know, having an adoring daughter to like her daughter being dead. And I feel like this shouldn't have been completely a surprise to Mrs. Kim. Like Lane very much, you know, was appeasing her mom in like while still holding her life in the floorboards. But like, especially because her mom is also a floorboard life liver. That's a funny way to say that. Like it shouldn't have been a surprise. And then to have it like go from like 0 to 60 very quickly, and then to like just resolve it. Like I was fine with it going 0 to 60 because I felt like it needed to. But like then just for her to be like, well, now you're going to go on tour and I'm going to help you and you're going to go to all these churches and I'm going to approve all of the lyrics and I'm totally okay with you being in this band now with these unclean men.
And living with the boys.
Yeah. Although I do love when Mrs. Kim comes to their apartment and she freaks out and she's like, boys and boys and boys and more boys. And then Laura's like, think of them as girls.
Yeah. Let me see how that turned out.
Yeah.
But no, and here's a question, I guess, because this comes up a lot.
Uh-huh.
I think in season 1, we get a little bit of the existence of Mr. Kim.
Yes.
And then he vanishes. He's not there for the wedding. He's not. Mm-mm. Maybe that's why Mrs. Kim kind of went 0 to 60 and then was like, I cannot deal. Like, did he die? Did he leave her? I don't think he left her, but.
I mean, because it's implied that, like, their relationship was not one of, like, love necessarily. Like,
but like an arranged marriage kind of thing.
Yeah, because, like, when she has the talk the day of the wedding, Mrs. Kim says, I hope you only have to do something once, like I did.
I see we're avoiding the vulgarity of the Dean episode.
Yes, I am still so ashamed.
So ashamed.
Trying to keep it very family friendly, but
it's Gilmore Girls.
It's true.
I mean, we easily talked about Rory cheating with Dean.
That's true. Anyways.
And I also don't think 6-year-olds are listening to our podcast. I know mine isn't.
True.
Anyway,
but it's still like Mrs. Kim is very much like, I hope that like kind of like you have like a not a loveless marriage, but like one lacking
intimacy.
Yes. I was like, what is that word? It is.
You need your big girl words today, Susie.
I do need my big girl words today. I feel like I'm rambling a lot today, so
that's okay. I'm here for it. This is a Gilmore Girls focused podcast. If we were clear and articulate and not rambling, I don't think it would be true to the content.
It would not be on brand. That's for sure.
And this is not just a Gilmore Gab podcast thing. We're like this without microphones.
It's true. This is just us being us.
And we're also tired.
Anyways, but like back to Mrs. Kim. She kind of wants Lane to like have like comfort, but not, I don't know. And so I think it's funny that like the Mr. Kim doesn't exist. Like obviously he existed at one point because Lane exists. But
well, and then I feel like they talked like about her dad at one point, not like a ton in the first season, but I feel like he was mentioned.
He was mentioned.
Seen, but then everything after that is Mrs. Kim is a single mom running this antique shop herself, doing everything herself. So maybe that's why things got as intense as they did, and then why she kind of 180'd really fast.
Yeah.
Because she already lost her husband in one way or another. Yeah. She couldn't stand. Because then she also takes in, which this broke my heart, she takes in a Korean girl who like is just the ideal daughter in Lane's eyes. Like, oh, she replaced me. And that was kind of sad.
Yeah. And then Lane corrupted her.
But the fact that Mrs. Kim took in the cousin or whoever she was kind of feels like she didn't want an empty house. She didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And we do have those scenes of her kind of like sitting alone at one point, or she went to go see her, not in Yale, but like earlier when she was like, because it was at like Lorelai's house, I thought, or something. I don't know. Where she kind of like looks through the window and is like, oh, my poor daughter, I miss you, or something like that. Yeah. There's a moment. I'm probably mixing things.
I think it's when Lane is, like Mrs. Kim sees Lane, right? I think it's when she's working at Luke's.
Yeah.
Which, okay. Can we segue? Are we good?
Girl, we always segue in tangent.
I just didn't want to interrupt you mid-thought.
No, I mean, my thoughts are mid anyway.
Okay, so like, I mean, they're not.
I didn't mean it. I realized what I said. I didn't mean mid as in like the current Gen Z vernacular of mid. I meant like they're always mid-thought.
Anyways, so the day that Mrs. Kim gets the call from Lorelai that she's at Yale, Mrs. Kim goes and she's in her car. She's gonna go to Yale, and she stops because she sees Luke because it's the middle of the night. So Luke is obviously prepping for the day, and she rolls down the window. She's like, "Hey, Luke, just wanted to let you know Lane's probably not going to be here for work." And Luke is like, "Yeah, she called me twice."
Yeah,
and Mrs. Kim just rolls up the window and goes home. And because I think she realized, that like the relationship she had with her daughter
is not what she had wanted it to.
Yeah. And my heart broke for Mrs. Kim in that moment.
And that's such a hard thing. Like I definitely, and I'm emotional in general right now, but like I'm seeing my little baby turn into this big kid all of a sudden, and it's a weird transition and it's a little heartbreaking. And I think of moments like that when I watch shows like that, and like, I don't ever want that to happen.
Yeah.
I have watched grown adults apologize to their adult children for the way they raise them. And like, I never want to have to sit there and look at my kid when she's in her 20s and be like, I'm so sorry I sucked. Like, and it's hard. And I feel for Mrs. Kim too.
Yeah.
But I think that, I do think that Mr. Kim something had to have happened.
Yeah.
Because then she's like not wanting to be alone. So she replaces quotation marks Lane with another Korean kid.
Yeah.
And then the way she dives full into the band thing.
Yeah.
And then dives full into the baby thing. Like,
yeah,
it's filling that void.
Mrs. Kim doesn't do things by halves.
No, she does not.
Which
such a polite way to say that.
I saw an interview because it's the 20th anniversary in 2025, as everyone should know.
Which is why we started our podcast when we did.
But there was an interview I saw with the actresses that play Mrs. Kim and also Lane. The episode where Mrs. Kim and Lane, like when Mrs. Kim finds everything under the floorboards, I saw an interview with both of the actresses that play Lane and Mrs. Kim talking about like how pivotal that scene was, especially because like Mrs. Kim has everything pulled out and Lane walks in to the house with everything pulled out and knows that her mom found it. And then her mom's like, is there anything else? And she walks over and like pops the last floorboard up. And, you know, and Lane's like, I just want to live my life the way I want to live my life. And Mrs. Kim's like, you can do that, but not here, you know, and that heartbreaking moment for both of them where, you know, Lane just wants her mom to see her for who she is. And Mrs. Kim is torn between, you know, the life that she's chosen for them and like the religion that she's chosen for them, which she truly has chosen for them because Mrs. Kim's mom is Buddhist, as we learn.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole thing. Is like I feel like all of this pushback against Lane being an individual wasn't a religious thing so much as it was a control thing.
Yeah,
because and maybe it's trauma where Mrs. Kim didn't have control of her own life and was also a floorboard kid.
Yeah.
And I think once she got to be in charge of her own life, I think she started to forget about what that was like.
Yeah.
Because considering Lane's age, Mrs. Kim had to have been older when she had Lane.
Yeah.
That's a long time to like kind of forget what you went through. And then you have your own kid and you're like, I'm going to do it right. But that what was right when you were younger is different now that you're older. And she forgot. And I think that also was part of like seeing the floorboards, her being like, how did I mess this up?
Yeah.
And her rejecting Lane was her rejecting herself more.
Yeah. But this also reminds me of a point too, that when that's their last name. When Lane
I almost did it too.
Is pregnant and she's talking about how she's gonna, you know, have rock and roll kids and they're gonna be able to do what they want and she's not gonna force any religion on them. And Lorelai actually reminds her, so are your kids going to have Bibles in their floorboards if they want to be religious? Like, are you going to force this the other way? And I think, bless Lorelai for bringing that up, because I think we almost had a third generation of floorboard kids. Because, like, what if one of her kids did want to? Like, and I like that Lorelai was like, how about you let your kids be themselves?
Yes.
And accept them however they were going to be. Like, maybe they are rock and roll kids, which would be great. But, like, what if one of them is interested in religion? Are you going to suppress that? Or are you going to let them be themselves?
And I think that's so amazing coming from Lorelai because Lorelai lived that.
Yeah.
Her mother did not want her to be who she was.
Yeah.
And that led to her being rebellious and pregnant at 16. So, and her leaving home and having constant problems with her mother, which is so funny because I just watched a TikTok of these two like family therapists watching the Year in the Life scene where Lorelai and Emily are in therapy and kind of analyzing the behavior and talking about how they're stuck in this mother and young child relationship rather than mother and adult child relationship.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. But anyway, so I think it was so good for Lorelai to be there for Mrs. Kim and for Lane. And I do think it's probably exactly what happened with Mrs. Kim is she wanted to go so far the other way of letting her kid be rock and roll in this, not in this case, but like not Buddhist. Yeah. That she pushed too far the other way. And there was nobody there to remind her, you know, because her marriage was arranged-ish or whatever, set up to be a certain way. So it wasn't like they were a partnership in the way that like a modern day husband and wife would be. And so, and it just, that was hard all around.
Yeah. Especially because like we don't ever hear about even Mr. Kim's family. Because all of the many, many family members are all Mrs. Kim's family members.
Yeah.
Or, you know, people that they've like adopted into their family type thing. But like, I'm pretty sure they're all just related.
Yeah. I do think that the best thing about that is we get that glimpse into Mrs. Kim's like childhood when they have Lane's wedding.
Yeah.
And how they have to do everything a certain way.
Yeah.
But then as soon as she's gone, it's like, all right, now to the real wedding that my daughter wants. And I think that was the moment we see Mrs. Kim kind of like letting go.
Yeah.
And embracing like, this is happening.
Well, especially after, because they do the Buddhist one, and then everyone runs to church because there's like 92 seats and 102 Koreans.
Yeah, something like that.
Everyone's running to get a seat, right? And then they get there, and Miss Patty has like the whole bench because she's like, oh, I've been here since like 6 a.m. because 92 seats, 102 Koreans or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then like even after that wedding happens, and like the Koreans all go and put the money in the bag,
and then do the like food line, and then they're gone.
And like everyone's like, but we want food. And Rory's like, no, it's not our turn yet.
Not this food.
Yes.
This is not your food.
Yes.
Don't worry.
And I love that like at the end of that, Mrs. Kim's like, I'll go put this money in the safe. She's like, we got a good haul. I'm going to go put this money in the safe. And then I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to put the good earplugs in so that I can't hear anything so that you guys can party as late as you want to. And then she leaves and like lets them have the party.
Although I think it would have done her some good to hang around for a
I
bit
think it would have
party.
too.
I would love to see Mrs. Kim let loose.
Right? Especially like at that point in their relationship. Because I feel like at that point in their relationship, like they actually have come really far. And I feel like they actually do understand each other a lot better than they have their Lane's entire life.
Yeah. Now I would like to see the confrontation between Mrs. Kim and Rory. Because Mrs. Kim has to know that the only way Lane got that stuff in the house is Rory. Like I could picture her like going back in her memory of all the times that Rory shoved that candy bar in her mouth really fast. Like that one time where she's like, oh, it's mine. That's bad for you. No kissing boys.
Yeah.
Like, and wondering like here's the thing. Mrs. Kim let Lane be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
Which feels very counter to everything Mrs. Kim would stand for.
Right, especially like the Seventh-day Adventist church or the school.
Yeah.
Where like if you wear makeup, you get suspended, and like if you wear like a shirt or a skirt that's like, shows your ankle, you can get suspended for that.
Gosh. With that though, I have to wonder how much of that was Mrs. Kim trying to push too hard the other way from like how she was grown up, and how much of it was her just being so scared of something bad happening to her baby. Not that it justifies everything, but like to want to push her into this Seventh-day Adventist college, to want to like kind of force her into, I don't think it was entirely like, trying to be super controlling. I think she was just afraid.
Yeah.
Especially if she lost her husband in whatever way she loses her husband. I think we've just accepted as Gilmore Gab canon, Mr. Kim disappeared. Yeah. Either he died or he left.
I'd like to think that he died.
I would like to think that, but I feel like we would have seen a shift in Lane if he had died. Because Lane does not seem to be the least bit bothered by the lack of a male presence in her life.
True.
But that might be because of the whole Lorelai and Rory thing.
That also could be true.
And Luke was everyone's dad.
Yes, he was. Except for his own child.
But he didn't know about her, okay?
He would have been.
He would have been a dad.
And he proved that he would have been, because as soon as he found out, which this is in the Luke episode.
And this is not the April and Anna Nardini episode.
Which is a whole
bag of worms.
Yep.
Anyways,
back to Mr. Kim.
Mr. Kim.
And his disappears. You're right. Well, okay, here's the funny thing. It's like Lane does not show any signs of trauma, and losing a father in any capacity should have been traumatic.
Unless he wasn't super present anyway, because it started out, I do feel like she'd say, my parents are sending me to Korea.
Yes.
Or my parent, and then it was my mom.
Yes.
My mom. What if he never like left them? He just like took her to Korea and then stayed in Korea. And so he was still a part of her life, but he wasn't there.
Maybe they still have a good relationship because he just lives in Korea now.
And maybe he has always understood her.
Maybe.
Maybe that's why Mrs. Kim and him split. I don't know. And it could also just boil down to, because I saw something on TikTok that talked about, because there's this one girl who's been doing a lot of TikToks where she's talking about Gilmore Girls. And she talks about how you can tell when it's an Amy episode and when it's a Dan, I think was her husband, episode. And like how sometimes the way that Dan would do the characters was very much not in line with how Amy was doing it. And a lot of people apparently don't like the Dan episodes. And it could also just be, it's a TV show and people forget things. Because that was like the argument for the pilot, like why things, like they say like Rory is X amount age or whatever. And then all of a sudden in the next episode, she's having her birthday, her 16th birthday. And it's because in the time that they were making these. You
Yeah.
had like a week or two between episodes, so
Yeah.
you forget things.
It's true. And I like in my head, that's where Mr. Kim actually went, was like, because they mentioned it very early on in the series, and then he's gone for the rest of it. And in my head, I just took it as they didn't want to cast him and like, you know, like.
And overcomplicate things, because really the story was about Lane and her relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
Especially if their marriage was like that arranged sort of situation. If Mr. Kim was just like, we had a girl, that's your, which can feel, I wonder, might be cultural too.
Yeah.
Of like, there's a lot of cultures where it's like, if there's a girl, it's the mother's job to be responsible for the girl, and the father raises the boy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Korean culture, please share. But it could have been that too, and that's why, you know, Lane didn't butt heads with her father a lot in the show. And I mean, I get it from a technical standpoint. We didn't want to cast anybody, but we are pretending like these are real people. So at least I am when we talk about them.
I mean, I wouldn't spend this much time with fictional characters. Actually, that's not true. I'm a writer.
Hockey books.
I love my hockey books.
I love them too.
I got her hooked.
So hooked. Anyway. Okay. So yeah, Lane and her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I think this segues right into Lane's relationships with boys in general, because her mom has to approve anyone that she's going to go on a date with, and they have to be Korean. They have to want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something very prestigious, and like they have to, you know, be able to prove their pedigree for. I actually don't know about that, but like it's
they had to meet very exacting standards.
Yes, and which takes us to Henry, which is the first guy that Lane, she meets him at the Chilton party, and they have this whole secret relationship that's not yet a relationship because they haven't gone on a date.
And like at first, Henry kind of gets it because he's also growing up in a similar sort of culture.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting is Mrs. Kim takes it really far.
She does.
Henry doesn't seem as restricted. And because of how far Mrs. Kim takes it, I feel like if Lane and Mrs. Kim had a better sort of relationship on that level, Henry probably, we probably wouldn't have had a Dave Rogowski.
Yeah.
Because Henry fit everything Mrs. Kim wanted.
Yeah.
But Lane was like, oh, the minute my mom finds out and she approves of him, I'm going to hate him.
Yeah.
Like, girl, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like, clearly we have some things to unpack here. And he tried.
He tried so hard.
But also, again, here we are using Rory. Not that I want to defend Rory, but like Rory having to do the whole three-way calling and be the middleman to protect Lane from her mother. And what's wild to me is Mrs. Kim was not an abusive woman.
No.
Even like mentally and emotionally, she wasn't abusive. She was just very rigid and strict.
Yes.
And Lane acted as if her mother would quite literally kill her. Or abuse her if she did. And it's like, no, you guys would have gotten in a shouting match and then you would have drank some tea. Like, calm down. But she acted so terrified of her mom, and I don't think that was fair.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think it was warranted either.
And I just feel like in that moment, the writers were trying to portray this like angsty, rebellious teen, and they just took it to a level that I just didn't feel was appropriate.
Maybe Dan wrote those episodes.
All of the Lane episodes?
Maybe.
Every single one of them. We might have to do a deep dive on what episodes he wrote and like think about them. But anyway, that's like season 2 material. We're in season 1.
Yeah. Well, and like it's very funny too, especially because like Henry gets sick of it at a point, and he's like, I'm done. We haven't even been on a date. And like, because the whole basket situation, because like she had put in a basket, like her mom's basket, and then someone else was gonna buy it, and the other guy that like ended up falling in love with her,
cousin or whatever.
Yeah.
The like distant cousin, which is just a whole other thing.
Who also had a closet girlfriend that like,
but then she broke up with him because she didn't like the whole fake dating Korean situation. And then he falls for Lane.
Yeah.
And he's so immature about it too.
Yes.
He was annoying.
But then Henry's like, I can't keep doing this. And then he just walks away. And then Mrs. Kim, she ends up yelling at Mrs. Kim about how, you know, her meddling has cost Lane this boyfriend that was actually perfect.
And you would have liked him.
And then Mrs. Kim is just like, wait, what? Where is he?
What boy? I will call his mother.
Yeah. Which, and at that point, it's like, no, it's gone. It's gone.
But it also wouldn't have fit Lane to date what her mother wanted.
Yeah. I think her and Henry were doomed from the start. Because I don't think Lane was mature enough for that relationship.
No.
And I think that, I honestly think that she probably would have ended up hating him because her mom liked him.
Yeah.
But then that opened the door for
Dave Rogowski. But
Dave
before we
Rogowski.
move on to Dave, I think also the appeal of him was he was a Chilton boy. And as we talked about with like the Jess Logan stuff, like, were there no other boys in this town? He was someone away from home. So it felt like rebelling, even if he was the perfect guy, he wasn't close to home.
Yeah.
And so being able to sneak around about it was the appeal.
Yeah.
But if he was approved, then he's around all the time.
Yeah.
And then he's not as appealing.
True.
Just like none of the boys that were actually in Stars Hollow were appealing to Rory.
It's true. I mean, there was the one guy that Lane thought she had a crush on. And
Dean's quote friend.
Yeah, and then she touched his hair.
Oh, that's a separate guy. That's the marching band guy. And then there was the guy that she thought she had a crush on and wanted Dean. Yeah. And then they double dated and he was just like a stoner.
She does try to date other boys.
She does, but then I feel like it goes back to the whole Rory of it all.
Yeah.
Where it's like Lane couldn't ask a guy out without Rory. And then she was like so they had to double date with Dean. And Dean was like, we're not really friends. We just fix our bikes together.
Yeah.
But then the hair thing, she had been trying to talk to Rory about this boy, but Rory was never around.
Yeah.
And then she does a horrifying and embarrassing thing.
Touches his hair.
And then freaks out and runs away and doesn't have anyone to talk to because Rory sucks. Rory is a terrible friend.
Yeah.
But Dave Rogowski.
Dave is one of the best men of the show.
And Dave would have still been there if he hadn't had to go to a different show.
Yep. 100%.
Because, I mean, let's be honest. That's the Hallmark romance right there.
Yes.
That's the meet cute over the band thing. Which, truthfully, like, he was probably too old for her, too.
Yeah.
Because she was still in high school and he was like in college.
No, because he goes away for college. So he was a senior when they met and she was a junior.
Let's find out. He seemed much older. He also didn't live there or even close.
Yeah.
I mean, it does say they're the same general age, but Dave just seems so much older, which I guess just goes back to Lane's maturity and not being mature enough for some of these relationships.
I think it's her senior year and he's just moved for college, which is why they break up. It also could just be that, like, because she was the actress that played Lane was like 27.
Yeah, but it just like Lane and Dave felt older.
He did feel older.
But again, I think it could have just been maturity. Lane's character was not mature enough for that level of a relationship. She was still hiding things from her mom. She was doing this band thing. She was still behaving like a rebellious child.
Yeah.
But you get a man like Dave Rogowski who likes you enough to read the entire Bible in one night to figure out what Mrs. Kim was saying.
When it was Shakespeare all along.
Yeah. And then to also be willing to learn and play these hymns and to just come to her and give that beautiful
right
about how he wants to take her to prom and how he understands her values and her more. He even I even think he says, I will convert to whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just let me date your daughter.
Which reminds me of it.
Yeah, I realized I sounded a little bit like Kurt. I love your daughter. What do you have to offer me? Nothing. Just this. And then he dances.
Awkward dance.
Filmed by Kirk.
Filmed by Kirk.
Which is a sticker.
But I love, okay, just for a second here, let's talk about Henry and Dave. Dave like made an effort that he was like, I am going to make this okay in your mom's eyes. I'm going to make sure that your mom is on board with this. Not that I'm saying Henry wouldn't have, but Henry never did try or even like bring that up.
I think it's because Henry grew up in the culture.
That's true. That's
and I think
true.
Henry was kind of like also much more mature than Lane in that. And he was okay going the path his parents wanted. But I don't think he realized just how intense Mrs. Kim was.
Yeah.
Because he'd never been around. He'd never seen it.
He never meets her.
Whereas Dave has witnessed firsthand the kind of person Mrs. Kim is.
Yes.
And he's, Rory, I'm sure, has probably talked about it. Like it is common knowledge how Mrs. Kim is. But because Henry is a Chilton boy who probably doesn't live anywhere near Stars Hollow,
at least a half hour away.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, you're Korean too. Oh, I understand the culture. Oh, I get it. But do you? Because you got to go to a party.
Yeah.
Lane had to lie about where she was that night. Did you, Henry?
Yeah.
Lane has to three-way call you through Rory to just be able to talk to you.
For 10 minutes.
You can just call.
Yeah.
Because he does. He calls and he's like, but then your mom answered. So I just pretended that I was trying to sell her a magazine or something.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that might have been the turning point too, where he realized, oh no, this woman is intense.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he didn't really want it, because I wouldn't want her as a mother-in-law.
It's true.
But Dave was like, no, I I care enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I know exactly who she is and I know what to do.
I also think Dave in the end genuinely likes Mrs. Kim.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that he likes the challenge of like trying to get on her good side.
I mean, let's be honest, at our big age, I think we all kind of like Mrs. Kim now.
Yeah. I understand Mrs. Kim a lot more than I did the first time I watched the show. Just like I understand Emily more than I did the first time I watched the show. That's its own episode.
Yes.
But like the last time I watched it, I was like, maturing is realizing that Emily was not the worst.
No, she had her problems, but
she did. But
maturing is realizing that Rory is the worst.
Yes. But yeah, like I love Dave's love for Lane and Mrs. Kim. Like the fact that he is willing to come and like play for their Bible study. And I love when he starts playing like the rock and roll song and Mrs. Kim looks at him and he just like shifts it right into a hymn.
I also love the little cute moment when Lane is in that like bridesmaid dress with a big old bow on the back.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, there's a bow. And she turns around and it's like those cute little moments in like the rom-coms.
Yes.
And I thought that was cute.
Yes.
I had a thought and then I lost it. Oh, so we're going to do a whole episode about Zach.
Yeah.
That'll be the next episode. But I think when we were talking about Dave and what he was willing to do, I think we need to talk about Brian.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, and we will definitely talk about this on the next episode where we talk about Zach, I don't think Lane should have ever been with Zach.
I agree.
If she could have been with Dave, Brian was the next logical choice.
Absolutely.
Because Brian also was more than happy to learn the hymns.
Uh-huh.
Brian studied the culture. And when they had that like Thanksgiving Korean dinner, he was like, oh, I know what this is. Oh, let me try this. And he tried to learn the language.
Uh-huh.
Like, why did she end up with Zach? Whose idea was that? And what can we do about that?
Dan.
It's Dan.
Anything goes wrong, it's Dan's fault.
It's all in good fun.
But like
Sherman Paladinos.
We love you both. But like Brian like fully immerses himself in the culture and he's accepted because they like let him sit with them.
Yeah, and doesn't he like put on like one of the outfits? Like they love Brian.
Like by the end of that Thanksgiving, he's basically Korean.
Exactly. So of all the people, the natural segue from Dave should have been Brian. Brian,
right?
But also had so much respect that until that moment, you don't even realize that Brian has feelings for Lane.
Yeah.
Because he respects his bandmates. He respects Lane. He respects Dave. He respected Zach for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, Brian wrote a song for Lane. Dave read the Bible for Lane. What did Zach do? Anyway, that's a separate episode.
He did write a song. We will talk about that next time. But that was by the urging of Mrs. Kim.
Well, and he also only tried when he was getting jealous and possessive and Zach's.
Because Brian wrote a song about Lane. And like the fact that they even had to have the conversation about how he writes songs about every other girl, but he won't write one about Lane. And he's like, nothing rhymes with Lane. And she's like, literally everything rhymes with Lane.
Everything rhymes with Lane.
And then Brian was like, hey, if Zach's not going to do it, I'll do it because he respected her.
And he didn't even do it as like a ploy or to get her attention. He's just like, cool idea. And I care about you as my friend. Like it was the most platonic crush ever.
Yes.
But like he didn't do it as like I'm going to try to get the girl. He was just like, Lane does deserve a song. Let me write it.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
she should have been with Brian.
Seriously. If Dave couldn't happen, Brian would have been the next best option.
And she would have had a much better ending.
I agree. And like I feel like she would have grown to love him, and I feel like the love and the mutual respect there would have been so much better. And I feel like cuz I feel like with Zach she loses so much of herself into that relationship. And Brian, I feel like she would have kept her culture. She would have kept like so much of like her family, honestly. Not that like Zach totally pulls that away, but like Brian was so immersive in it.
And Brian was willing.
Yes.
And the other thing too is like when you say that like Lane lost herself, I agree. I think what the big issue here was that like after Dave, she didn't have somebody who was willing to like fight for her in the same way. And she was kind of in that like brokenhearted stage. And then she just kind of reverted to, I'm this rock and roll chick. I have to live this rock and roll life, which means I need the rock and roll boyfriend. And even though Brian's in our band, he has an inhaler and glasses.
Yeah.
And it was just like, she went too far.
Yeah.
And lost herself to this persona of what she thought she needed to be and missed out on a really great guy who who would have let her be her rock and roll self while still letting her also be the girl she's always been.
Okay, but also I feel like this needs to be addressed also. When Zach breaks up the band, because he's the reason they break up, right? Who keeps playing music? Brian. Because he joins
that like polka group or whatever.
No, because it's him and the other guy. Like the other
Gil?
bandmate. Yes, Gil. I can't his real name's Sebastian, and I keep wanting to call him
That's because he's like from a real band.
Yeah, because he's a real rock and roller.
Cracks my husband up every time he's like
Yeah.
points at the screen. I know him.
Because Gil and Brian keep playing together.
Yeah, they do like bar mitzvahs.
They do bar mitzvahs,
like...
and like, and basically they'll do anything to play because they want to keep playing.
Yeah,
but like, to me that shows actual commitment to the rock and roll life,
which Lane was committed to. Zach just liked the groupies and the image it portrayed. Yes, he was a worthless pile of doggy poopy. And I don't like him. And I think if we were ranking, because like I said, I just did the snippet for the Dean episodes, and we hate Dean more than Christopher. Like Dean is most worst, and we have Christopher in second. I feel like Zach either ties for second or could push ahead.
Okay.
Not in first. Dean's always first. But the more I think about, like, if we're going Gilmore Girls, like focusing on the girls, obviously Christopher's second place for the worst.
Yeah.
But Zach is just all around bad.
He's, and like their whole relationship came out of left field. Like it just, I was like, hold on, wait, this is happening. And then when they get engaged, I was almost angry about it.
Yeah, but we need to hold into that anger because we're going to talk about Lane. Yes. And then we'll talk about Zach.
Yes.
Because I do think the Zach of it all does need a whole episode.
Yes. But going back to Brian, like, and I love even when Zach is trying to get the band back together and he goes to Gil and Brian, who are still playing music together. And they're like, you're sunk unless you get Lane on board.
Yeah. Because they don't want to play without Lane.
Yeah.
Because they care about Lane.
Exactly. Like, I love Gil and I love Brian.
I don't know. Gil made me a little uncomfortable, but
I mean, he is an actual rock and roller. So.
It was more the age comparison, but behaving like he was a teenager, but like having a wife and kids, but behaving with his wife like he was not bad. It just, I was kind of like, that would be hard for me to be in a band with him.
I mean, this is why they almost didn't let him in the band.
Yeah, because he's so old.
Yeah.
But
I mean, at that point, they are all graduated from high school, at least.
Still, so we were just talking about how, like, the age difference between me and my husband is only 4 years, but you put that back in high school terms, and it was weird.
Yep.
We did not meet in high school, though. I was in my 20s.
Yeah, because, like, it's like even talking to my nieces and nephews that are in their teenage years, like, they can't, like, a year is too much for them almost. Not almost. A year is too much for them. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's such an age gap. And I used to tease my niece that, like, actors that were, like, 2 or 3 years older than her. I was like, oh my gosh, you could think they're cute because it's weird for me because I'm 20 plus years older than her. But I was like, hey, and she's like, no, he's too old. That's so weird. And I was like, no.
When I was in high school, as a girl, it was weird to date someone who was younger than me.
Yeah.
Because you always dated the boys who were older. But it was not uncommon for a sophomore to be dating a senior or, you know, like an upperclassman.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a freshman dating juniors. Like that didn't feel weird at all.
Yeah.
It felt weird to date someone in my own grade.
Yeah.
And definitely not someone younger than me.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah.
That's weird. 1 year is too old? That's offensive. I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, me and my siblings kind of tease them a little bit because we're like, wait until you get out of high school.
Yeah.
And
this generation thinking we're old.
I mean, I fully own that I like I was talking to my niece today that's 16. And she was like, oh my gosh, they graduated in 2009. And she was all horrified. And I was like, girl, I graduated several years before that. But for her, it was huge because that's the year she was born because she's 16. And so I was like, oh, girl, just you wait.
I don't know. They did a really good job of kind of making like, because I always felt like Zach felt too old too for Lane. And I don't know if it was just, and he was incredibly immature. But it just like he came off as an older guy taking advantage of a younger girl.
I mean, the very first instance we ever see Zach, he's hitting on Lorelai.
That is also a factor we will talk about
next week
in that
next time.
So he was buying beer in season 5-ish, they think. So he was only a couple of years older than her. But like, oh my gosh, his name is Zach Van Gerbig.
What? How did we not know his last name?
Because they never say his last name.
Because it's awful.
Oh my gosh.
If I were Lane, I would keep Kim as my last name.
Apparently, according to the Gilmore Girls wiki, they have Mr. Kim listed as his father-in-law.
So Mr. Kim is alive.
I guess.
He must live in Korea.
Yeah, because you have Brian Fuller listed as friend, Gil, who has no last name, Dave Rogalski and Lane Kim.
If I were Kim, I would have definitely kept Lane.
For sure.
Nope. Switch that.
If I were Lane, I would have kept Kim.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
Lane Van Gerbage. What is it?
Gerbig. But like the thing is too, is when you see that van, it's actually Vaughn. Like it has to be. Like there's no, that's so white if it's, I mean, it would not white. It's so Americanized. Zach Van Gerbig, which clearly reads more like, Gerbig reads like European.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's like Zach Von Gerbig. But like, why has he got a fancy name? Have you met the boy?
Right?
Anyway.
But we don't know where he comes. This is all next time.
Yeah.
This is all next time material.
Yeah, he just, I don't know. I know Lane so desperately wanted to be rock and roll. But I don't feel like she needed to be, like Zach was that like stereotypical sleazy rock and roll guy. And she was so much than that. And Dave leaving, I think, was part of the problem. And Brian needed to grow a pair and like step up and be like, Lane, I love you.
Yes. It honestly would have made more sense to me for her to end up with Brian than with Zach.
And truthfully, I didn't really clock it all the times I'd watched it until the most recent rewatch before we started this podcast. And I was like, Lane should have been with Brian. Brian, like you said, fully immersed himself in her culture, wrote her a song, like cared about her feelings, you know, and was always aware of her. Yeah. Like aware of where she was, aware of what was going on, was respectful of like her boundaries, you know, and Zach just didn't care. Yeah.
Zach did care about himself. Yes.
So Lane.
What's one good thing about Lane?
Everything about Lane is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we've talked a lot about like her flaws, and I mean, she definitely wasn't a great friend to Rory, but Rory was worse. She wasn't a great daughter.
I feel like by the end, her and Mrs. Kim actually do work through a lot of the issues that they have to where, because like Mrs. Kim is a part of their lives and she's like going to help take care of the babies and all that kind of stuff. And I think that like, that's one thing that I really actually love about their relationship is that they do, instead of just letting it like become a cavern between them, they actually do eventually start talking and do make things right between them so that they have that relationship again.
Yeah. I think not along the lines of like one good thing about Lane, because we haven't really like bashed her or anything, but I do have like a favorite thing that she ends up doing. And it's when she starts standing up for herself. And the one particular like memory that I have from the show is when like Zach keeps coming in with his groupies. And granted, it's because she's starting to like crush on him. Yeah. But like, and he's like, I get the free fries. And she's like, no, stop taking advantage of me. Yeah. And granted, it's motivated by like the jealousy, but like Lane never stands up for herself. It's true. She doesn't stand up for herself when Rory's like treating her like crap. She doesn't stand up for herself when Paris is having a fit about her being in the dorm room. Yeah. She's a mouse. Yeah. You know, and for her to finally stand up, especially to Zach, who has caused a lot of problems. Like, I just was really proud of her for like, you know, because she doesn't ever really stand up to her mom either until she's confronted. Yeah. And this was a moment where she like owned her feelings and spoke up. And I really liked seeing the tiniest bit of growth because we get no growth for Lane through the whole series. Yeah. So that's my thought.
Lane.
And the actress that plays Lane still looks.
Yeah, she does.
Love it. And so does Mrs. Kim.
It's true.
I love it though.
I love seeing like Mrs. Kim on the tours that they're doing currently where like several of the actors are popping up. And I love Mrs. Kim, like people asking her to yell at them like she's Mrs. Kim. And it's just so funny. I love the actress that plays Mrs. Kim. And whenever I see her in anything else, I'm like, that's not very Mrs. Kim of you. Because she's not ever like, I haven't seen her play another Mrs. Kim character, but I have seen her in many other things. And I'm like, oh, like she is such a phenomenal actress. Both of them are.
Well, I think we've talked about Lane quite a bit.
We have.
I don't know if there's much more to say.
We love Lane. Sometimes she's a little frustrating, but overall we love her.
And I do think, I think it was a good representation of some of those struggles, both culturally, but also just as a teenager. I just do think the writers pushed it too far.
I agree.
But that's not Lane's fault. That's
she deserved a better ending. I will die on that hill.
I 100% agree. Yes. I don't even remember what her ending is like in the year in the life. I feel like I just remember her being miserable.
Do you want me to shed some light on that?
That's fine.
So like Zach is a manager at somewhere. And so like he gets home from work and they're like, oh, we have to practice right now because otherwise like we're not going to, because like they all have like kind of given into the corporate life. And
how does Zach even land a corporate job?
I don't know.
Mrs. Kim had to pull some strings.
Yes, I see Mrs. Kim's hand all over that. But yeah, I remember also Lane not not being fully.
And I don't like that because I feel like it portrays this idea that when you have kids, everything ends.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the first few years, that baby pretty much controls everything. But like we're now at a stage where like my whole family has gone to Ren fairs recently.
Yeah.
And my kid loves it because she's old enough to enjoy it and I don't have to carry her the whole time. I stick her in a wagon. And she participates, like we do our D&D nights. And sometimes she's there. And yeah, is it a little bit hard with her around? Sure. But like she'll get there.
Yeah.
But like your life doesn't have to end. It just might have to go pause for a couple of years.
It changes. And then like eventually it gets to the point, like I was talking to one of my brothers who like his youngest is a junior or senior in high school. She's a senior this year. And like she'll be out of the house this time next year. And he's like, we're not going to have any kids at home. Like that hasn't happened in 20 years. Like, oh my gosh. Like, what the heck? And it's like, it very much is, but with him, even in the last few years, like when we plan stuff to like get together, he's like, we don't consider the kids because they're off doing all of their own stuff.
They're older,
like,
yeah.
And it's like there is a time where your kids do take a lot of your time, but that doesn't remain. You know?
Well, and it can be so exciting to explore those things with your kids. Like I am living for the day. I'm really trying to make my kid like Harry Potter because I love the idea of giving her like the 11th birthday party. But like I'm also just watching my kid kind of grow because I've always been that parent that steps back and lets her decide her interests. And, you know, I have an in-law who had all boys initially, and then she had a daughter and immediately was like forcing the Disney princess movies on her and making her do all this because she loves Disney princesses. And it's like, that's cool. And if your kid likes that, that's great. But like, are you going to give her an opportunity to be herself? My kid started out loving superhero movies as like a 2-year-old and playing with Hot Wheels. Yeah. And it's just now as she's 6 that she's like into Barbies and kind of more girly things. And I love that. I mean, it's different. And I really wondered where things were going to go because I loved the idea of playing Barbies with my daughter one day, but I didn't think it was going to happen. And now it has. And now she's watching Hallmark movies with me and asking me when they're going to kiss. So
as you always should.
As you always should.
But this reminds me of TikTok I saw on Gilmore Girls also. And they were talking about the way that Gilmore Girls portrays intimacy in general and motherhood specifically, and how like there really isn't a good, other than like Lorelai and Rory, but even that relationship has its issues.
That's like not a good mother-daughter
they kind of put a bad light on it in general. And we see that especially with Lane, because like it seems like, you know, she gets pregnant right away on the honeymoon and like she is miserable about it and she hates the idea of it. And, you know, she's like, I mean, I guess I wanted kids someday, but like now like it's like they're burdened with motherhood.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, this came out in the early 2000s. And I feel like that was a really common time of that argument of should you stay home or should you be working? And are you a good mom if you're home or not? And mothers trying to find their identity, and like all of this argument about gender roles was really prominent in the early 2000s. And I think it's interesting when you look at the show in that perspective of like Lorelai was too much of Rory's best friend to the point that, we've always been taught you can't be friends with your kids. Yeah. You have to be their parent first. When they're adults, sure, be their friend. Yeah. But when they're children, you cannot be their friend because look what happened with Rory. Yeah. You know, when she sleeps with Dean, all of a sudden now she's like, wait, why is my mom being a mom? Yeah. And that shifts, and you see Lorelai become more mom-like from that point on versus being Rory's friend. Yeah. And then you have the dynamic between Emily and Lorelai, where Emily just wants what's best for her kid, but also just kind of wants to control her. Not in the same way that Mrs. Kim does, but still like that's a really strained relationship. Because Lorelai felt like her parents hated who she was because she didn't fit the mold. And so Lorelai projected this stuff. And Emily's just mad in general that Lorelai kind of abandoned her. Yeah. Is the feeling. And then Mrs. Kim is overly strict, overly controlling. And then you get to like Suki. And that, like, I feel like that is Suki and Jackson's whole like parenthood thing felt the most real and relatable.
But I feel like even with them, because Suki almost gets lost in that also, to the point that like, you know, the stove gets sent back because she missed it because she was home with Davy, and like, and she's like, you know, I can't do anything. I have this kid, and like, you know, you were supposed to take care of all the business. I was just supposed to show up and cook. And it's like,
but that's why I say it's the most realistic and relatable. Yeah. Out of all the parents, like the mothers in that show, I've been in that moment. I
Yeah.
have felt so overwhelmed. And like, all I can do is be this mother to this child, and I have no identity and I can't do anything else. And then things fall by the wayside because it feels like there's nobody else helping because my husband is working full time and I didn't have a village because we were in the middle of North Carolina. And, you know, and that's, was it good? No, but I think that was more realistic.
Yeah.
I think, but I also think it was pointed in like, oh, look, see, this is why mothers should stay home and not return to the workforce. And it's like, you know, and then you get to the Anna Nardini episodes and the idea of like, I'd rather be a single mother and hide you, and now I'm mad at you for wanting to be in my kid's life. Like, you get all the dynamics.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that, but it definitely did not make motherhood seem fun.
Yeah. Or even desirable.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I can understand like Lane being real mad that she just got married and she doesn't get to enjoy it.
Yeah. But Lane and Mrs. Kim, like, I like where they end up at the end of the show. And even in A Year in the Life, like, I love that they find a way to like accept each other for who they are. And I think it takes the time of the whole show to really fully make that happen.
Yeah. Which I think is one of the few instances of like familial growth we see too. Because even in A Year in the Life, like I talked about earlier, you don't see the growth between Emily and Lorelai.
Yeah.
Even Lorelai and Rory are still in the same place they were.
Yeah.
As mother-daughter. Like, you know, and I think that being able to see, when we're talking about like it doesn't portray motherhood in a great light, I do think that it does portray the mother-daughter relationship better when it comes to Lane and her mom, as far as showing like they figured it out.
Yeah.
But it took time.
Yeah.
Because Lorelai and Rory, they fight, they don't talk to each other for a few months. Oh, then everything's fine.
Yeah.
Or Rory runs away and then everything's fine. But I don't feel like they ever actually have that sit down resolution the way that Mrs. Kim and Lane do. Yeah. It's more just like, we're not talking to each other, and then, oh, sorry, kiddo, it's fine. Now we're back. You know, and so I like, and the same with Lorelai and Emily, like they don't ever resolve anything. Yeah. Whereas with Mrs. Kim and Lane, we get a resolution. They kind of come to terms with that they are who they are, but they can be flexible with each other, and they have a better relationship at the end than they did when it started. But nobody else's mother-daughter relationship is better at the end than it was where it started. It's the same.
It's true. It's just
so that makes Lane and Mrs. Kim the best mother-daughter relationship in the show.
Which I feel like is saying a lot. Congratulations.
Yay. Well, that's the end of this episode.
Yep. Thank you for listening.
We're going to talk about Zach next episode.
Oh, yes, we are.
That's it for the Gilmore Gab.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. We won't see you.
Well, you'll hear us next time.
You'll hear us and you'll see our cute little stick figures.
They're so adorable. Okay, bye.
Bye. The Gilmore Gab is created and produced by Rachel Llewellyn and Susie Carmichael. Music by Kevin MacLeod. Follow us on Instagram at Gilmore Gab Podcast and sign up for our newsletter on Substack. You can also subscribe to our paid Substack for early access to new episodes and exclusive content. The Gilmore Girls show and characters are the exclusive property of Warner Brothers Entertainment. Warner Brothers Entertainment is not affiliated with, nor does it endorse, the Gilmore Gab Podcast.